Thanks for inviting us in at 6 o'clock. We've got a wintry mix moving into central Indiana right now. Some areas bracing for rain and freezing rain.
Yeah, active radar at this hour, and here's what it looks like outside right now. We've got wet spots that could cause some dangerous conditions out on the roads. It's just kind of that hazy, wet, damp look.
Not fun to be out there at all. Angela's tracking it for you at 6 o'clock.
Yes, I'm going to start with a picture because what we showed you, wet pavement, and that's good. However, those elevated surfaces are icing up. This comes to us from Liberty in our eastern viewing area. You can see the glaze on the trees, and you can see those little icicles hanging down from the deck. Any elevated surface may go icy. That would be the dangerous road condition that's possible over the next several hours. The good news, pavement temperatures are still above freezing, and the roads are wet here in Tipton. Just be prepared now through about 4 o'clock tomorrow morning. A mix of, at times, sleet, freezing rain, and rain. We've mainly so far had rain and freezing rain, and those elevated surfaces not supported by the warm ground will go icy. And you can see the wintry mess that we're dealing with on live Doppler 13 radar. From Tipton to Lebanon, Anderson to Newcastle into Rushville. We have had reports of icing in Rush County as well, south to Greensburg. This will continue off and on the next several hours. I'll have more on the timeline and 2 more weather systems to track in the 7-day.
Thank you, Angela. We'll check back. And don't forget, you can always keep track of the system as it travels through central Indiana if you have the Live Doppler 13 weather app. Just check out the interactive radar after you download it free from our phone's app store.
Tonight at 6, we're seeing photos from the Delphi murders crime scene. These pictures shared publicly by the state of Indiana just this week.
Here's a close-up of Libby German's cell phone under the leaves there. And on that phone, the video of, quote, Bridge Guy from February 13th of 2017.
We want to bring in Samantha Johnson, who's been covering this case. Why are we seeing these pictures today?
Yeah, so you'll remember last month, the defense team filed what they called a motion to correct errors. They gave us several examples and reasons why they felt like Richard Allen's conviction should have been overturned, and that included some conflicting arguments about the cell phone that you saw in those photos. We can tell you now the Carroll County prosecutor has filed his response.
Richard Allen is serving 130 years in prison for the deaths of Abby Williams and Libby German. In January, Allen's attorney said it was a mistake. The trial excluded an alleged confession by a man named Ron Logan, who detailed how he killed the 2 girls. But Carroll County prosecutor Nick McLeland says the man who allegedly heard that confession and told police failed a polygraph miserably, and many of the details are directly contradicted by the evidence. Former prosecutor and defense attorney Brad Banks.
And they're saying the confession was made to another person who panned out to be completely unreliable.
Allen spent most of his time before trial at the Westville Correctional Facility, a placement his attorneys say was, quote, plainly illegal from start to finish. They say it impacted Allen's mental health and the outcome of the trial. The state now responding, saying, quote, the motion for safekeeping does not impact the ability to have a fair trial and is not a reason to overturn the verdict.
Look, this guy's in custody. He's not being given a bond. We're just talking about where can we keep him safely. And so that doesn't trigger your right to counsel.
The state also shared these evidence photos of Libby's cell phone found at the crime scene. They say the pictures support their theory that water or dirt could have impacted the phone. But the defense claims that's not the case. They say someone activated it after Libby's phone reportedly stopped moving. So now the state urging the judge to reject Allen's request for a hearing or to overturn the verdict, writing, quote, the defense is not permitted to request a new trial to change strategy when their chosen path fails.
So many details there. So glad that you're familiar with this case. You can sort it out for us. So great job with that. I guess the big question is now, what happens next?
Yeah, so you heard from Brad Banks in that story there. He expects the judge to deny that motion, and he also expects that to happen pretty quickly. We're talking about days, if even that long. And he says when that does happen, it'll essentially restart the appeal process for Richard Allen's attorneys, which we do expect will happen at some point. They would have 30 days at that point to file a notice of appeal. So a lot to keep track of, a lot of deadlines, but of course we'll keep you updated.
All right. Thank you so much, Sam. Tonight in Plainfield, police are investigating a deadly crash at a very busy intersection.
One person was killed, several others injured, including Avon police officers who were trying to help the victims. Investigators say around 9:15 this morning, an Avon officer tried to stop a car near US 40 and Ronald Reagan Parkway.
But police say the driver took off, slammed to an SUV, which then went off the road and burst into flames. A witness tells 13 News they saw an injured child pulled out of that SUV. No word yet from investigators on their condition. No jail time for a Carmel man who attacked another driver with an axe in a road rage incident right here in Indianapolis. Rich Nye was in the courtroom today and takes us there with his camera for this afternoon plea deal. And he also has reaction from the man who suffered serious cuts in the attack.
Jimmy Calhoun pleaded guilty to battery with a deadly weapon.
Are you entering into this plea agreement freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
Calhoun received a sentence of 2 years home detention plus 2 years probation for attacking Chet Montgomery with an axe in a road rage incident at 16th and MLK Jr. Streets last March. Montgomery suffered cuts to his thigh, hand, wrist, and chin. The plea agreement also calls for Calhoun to pay restitution. Montgomery says he has about $12,000 in unpaid medical bills from Methodist Hospital. He'll need to provide copies of those bills for the defense to review.
I wouldn't say I'm necessarily happy with it, but it is what it is. The guy took a plea. Hopefully in the future he won't do something like this, you know. So if I had my way about it, he'd be in jail.
Calhoun also has to complete an anger management course. At the Marion County Community Justice Campus, Rich Knight, 13 News.
A Delaware County man will spend more than 7 decades behind bars for the murder of his ex-wife. A judge sentenced Caesar Curtis to 78 years in prison. Authorities discovered the body of his ex-wife Maria at this abandoned trailer back in September of 2023. This is the same month that Maria was reported missing. Police tell us a tip from a friend led them to that home along a country road in Delaware County. A jury found Curtis guilty of murder last December. Tonight at 6, for the first time, we are hearing from the city county councilor expelled from the Democratic caucus.
Our Marina Silva sat down for a one-on-one conversation with Jesse Brown today. Brown told Marina he still hasn't been given an official reason for his expulsion.
It happened just before the city council meeting Monday evening. Councilor Jesse Brown took to Twitter, posting, "Just got expelled from the Democratic caucus."
Honestly, I saw it coming.
He claims he was not given a reason, but a statement was sent to 13 News on Monday saying for a caucus to be successful, it must rely on trust, factual discourse, and a commitment to constructive teamwork. Have you lied about anything?
I have not told a lie to my peers about anything.
13 News reached out to a spokesperson for the city council asking for an interview with any of the members who voted to expel Brown. We were told those councilors were not wanting to speak on camera about this and referred us back to a statement made Monday. That statement said in part, quote, "After a careful consideration, we have determined that it is in the best interest of the caucus and the constituents we serve for this individual to continue acting as an independent council member rather than part of our caucus."
To me, that's a proof of what I've been saying for months, which is the political culture in Indianapolis is a culture that says all the important people meet behind closed doors to figure things out.
Councilor Brown says he's going to keep fighting because that's what he was elected to do. Reporting in Indianapolis, Marina Silva, 13 News.
There's always two sides, sometimes more than that. And tonight, a lot of people are left wondering, what does all this mean?
Marina asked a political science expert what happens now. He told her this is not something that happens very often.
Your ability to influence policy choices now is gone. You will likely, suffer the ability to be on, committees and that kind of thing will also be curtailed.
That insight from Aaron Dusso from IU Indy. He tells us that even though the counselor is expelled from the caucus, Brown will still be able to do his job. He just won't make the same impact he would if he was a caucus member. It's a million meal marathon. How many meals packed today at Gainbridge Fieldhouse and where they're going when we come back.
And right now I'm tracking a wintry mess and more rain and snow chances in your forecast.